In some recent videos, we've been at the gym BLX in Stockholm. The gym has a concept that's kind of like comp-style boulders, which is basically just a fancy way of saying boulders that we've given a lot of love and thorough thought to. With this concept, they also host an event called the Boulder League, which I've been invited to set and to film for, and in today's video we'll take a look at how the boulders we set for the event were intended to be climbed and then briefly kind of talk about our thoughts behind them. After that, we'll see the round take place and the event transpire. If you're watching this and you're living or visiting Stockholm, I can recommend you to sign up for the next event that's on the 11th of February, where this type of round will take place again, and I'll also be hosting a little Routesetting workshop, so if you sign up for the event today, you're more than welcome to join me on that. All the info will be in the description, and then on top of this, there's also a 25% discount code with BL25 that you can use on a single entry, clip card, or a monthly card. That is if you just want to enter the gym and try some of these boulders that you see in this video. Most of them should be up for a few more weeks, so hurry up on over there and try them out. But now let's check out the sets that we made for this event.
Okay guys, so the competition is tomorrow, and I figured I would show you guys all the boulders first so you know what the moves are thought out to be in our opinion as route setters, like what we've set. Starting off with this white one, has like a pretty delicate style and then goes into a corner press, which is kind of like the feature of the boulder. This is for the red-blue tape category, so people who might not be very experienced climbers but want to compete and want to like push themselves. So yeah, let's give it a go. I can show you guys how the moves are and how the full line is supposed to look in our book, and we'll see tomorrow how it compares to when the actual climbers are on it in the finals. This yellow set is for the men's advanced category. Has like a distinct start where it's a bit delicate to get into the first zone hold or point hold, and then a difficult jump out right followed by a campus sequence. And that's the introductory part of the boulder. It gets progressively harder, and then at the end it has a very, very difficult toe hook. Like you have to throw your toe above your head from like a double Gaston type of position to transition to the right. That's the idea anyways, and we'll see tomorrow if it pans out or not. But let's look at the full line and see how it's climbed when I won't do it. Okay, here we have a pink boulder. Basically, it's this, the main feature of it is this big sideways jump where you swing from just your arms, transition out on the left, and basically try to get your center of gravity as close to the wall as possible to maintain the swing and be able to catch the holds in a nice fashion. So yeah, let's have a look at the full line, how the full line is climbed, and see if it's, you know, what people do tomorrow.
Ja.
Testa att skippa väggen, precis. Bara gunga med kroppen liksom.
Kom igen.
Ja. Nice.
Nice.
No! No! Spicy. Nice.
Yeah, no, the toe slip. The toe slip, that was pulling up and then pulling
backward out. Interesting, yeah. Nice. Okay, so black one behind me is thought to be kind of delicate at the start, where I want the climbers to face outwards and then jump out to the left to catch a really, really good jog. The jump should be a little bit committing. That's the idea, that they have to really throw themselves out there. but then it should be quite easy to stick. After that is this crazy kind of dynamic move into a palm press position, where you kind of have to make sure that you're not flying out from the wall when you're doing it, and then it finishes on a jump, kind of like to some nasty boxes that are hard to hold, but not too hard to hold, hopefully. So yeah, let's have a look at the full line. This green one is one of Nicken's bangers. It's super cool. We have a box here right now, which is not supposed to be there for the finals. It's really shallow and hard to start on it, and you transition out right into a big jump to a... It's a hole that's like good enough to hang from one arm, but you have to jump correctly to it to be able to stick it. And then you take like a Superman victory swing from it. And then you transition into a very difficult mantle, where you get into a pretty tight position to match the final hold. And this is what it looks like, the full line. Doing a 360 in the background. Anyways, this yellow one is for the women's final. It's kind of very different from the first one, in the sense that this is quite balancy and powerful, and you have to focus a lot on your footwork. It has this pretty big box feature that you move around on in the beginning, and I would say that that's like the focal point of the boulder in the start. Yeah, let's have a look at the full line. It's quite delicate at the top, so I think it's going to challenge them quite a bit. Kom in. Oh, victory! So these are the homies in the background who set a lot of these boulders. We've tested them, and I think we're ready to watch the finalists, give them a go, and hopefully succeed at all the boulders, but not too easily. Let's go.
So the competition starts with a qualifying round where there's 10 boulders, and the people who manage to do the most of them gets to go to the final round. There's 3 different categories and a lot of falling that takes place during this event. But anyways, 4 women go to the final, 5 men, and then 4 for the blue and red tape finals. We'll start off with the blue tape round. The first boulder was, as mentioned, the black one, which is powerful and jumpy. So the initial jump worked out really well. It turned out to be quite committing to the climbers and also challenging. Most people didn't start face out, which was a bit unfortunate, but then the second move turned out to be quite the crux for a lot of people. It's kind of hard to go without really going quite dynamic to the undercling push thing. The climbers didn't really try to go the way I did with just stepping up in one move. Instead, they pinched it and did manage to step up slowly, but it was definitely a challenge for them. Some climbers did use the face out method, which I thought was a great crowd pleaser. It was very entertaining. And then, as mentioned, the first jump took a lot of commitment. What I really appreciated about this boulder for the competition was that it turned out kind of perfect. Like, we had people falling on every single move, and even on the last move, which is kind of a last-minute decision to put the boxes like that. Before we had a big jug, but instead we saw some climbers fall off it, which was kind of just made for a slightly better show, you know. The second boulder in the blue-red category was the delicate and committing one. And we weren't sure how difficult this one would be for them. It's very hard to evaluate how difficult smearing on volumes and pressing will be. full disclosure here is that we underestimated the difficulty here. And we saw a lot of tops in it. I think everybody in the competition actually topped it in the end. So all 4 finalists. But we saw some different versions to it and just some different styles. And the thing that I appreciated the most was the winner of the category, this gentleman right here, who found a very unique method up the boulder. And yeah, let's just have a look at how that looked. When he topped it, the vibe was immaculate, and yeah, the stoke was just high, and the competition moved forward. So we'll take a look at the women's round now instead. The women's round started off with the brutally powerful yellow boulder that I showcased a little bit earlier. This thing was hard, and it turned out to be a lot harder than we had initially anticipated. Unfortunately, it was just a minor tweak that made this climb so difficult. You can see the hold on the lower part of the left-hand box was actually a foothold that was a lot better before, which would have made the move up left here a lot easier. But instead it turned out to be a little bit too powerful, and in the end, one climber stuck the move to it, but unfortunately we didn't put a point to that hold, so that didn't make a difference for the scoring. And the move after proved to be a little bit too hard. And so we only got to the 10-pointer out of 100 on this one. Second boulder was the coordination and precision based one. This one was such a risk for us because we had no idea if this type of movement would be too unusual for Swedish climbers, because we don't really set this style very often. None of the gyms in Stockholm that I know of have this type of move, and it's very unique, so it's not something that people see every day. In other countries and in World Cups it's fairly common nowadays, but this is definitely not something that we're used to here in little old Sweden. But some of the women started to figure it out, which was really cool. Understanding kind of how to swing and get the body motion in, which is one of the really important aspects of this competition, is to kind of showcase movements and learn stuff that we haven't seen before. And Livia here, this climber, showed very high levels of expertise with this movement. It was really cool to see it get more and more perfected throughout the round, and then actually finally someone sticking it and creating quite the crowd pleaser. She took the gold with this climb since she was the only one to stick this move, and then it was just a fight to the top left. Unfortunately, she didn't stick the last move, or the last sequence, and ended up being a little bit too tired to finish it off. Next up was the men's final. The first boulder was kind of slow to fast and then fast to slow. And by that I mean it started off by being a very delicate slab in the beginning, as I mentioned earlier, and smearing on these volumes is actually a lot harder than it looks. We saw a lot of falls there. And then it goes over to be a fast motion into the big volcano, which is committing, especially after you've been so insecure on your feet. It makes it very challenging to actually rely on your feet as well. It took most climbers quite a few attempts to stick it, of the ones who actually did, so we saw 3 tops from this boulder. Partly from Albin there, but then also from Matisse. He's a French guy who's been invading the Swedish climbing scene and trying to steal all of our ascents and yeah, kind of just showcase the French power to us all. It was actually quite funny. He was in a podcast the other week where he described the Swedish climbing style as not very delicate and basically just all power and grabbing small holds and pulling hard, which is kind of funny because it's quite true. We're not notoriously famous for our slab technique, but we do have a lot of power. And the boulder after this one was hopefully going to test him a little bit on that. The last match here proved to be quite difficult. This is the second slow part of the boulder, trying to find this position, and It took Mattis quite a while to understand how to move on this boulder, and he ended up being a little bit too tired and just collapsed in his shoulders and fell down. But he recovered and came back up to the top, pushed himself into the corner, and then got a top of the boulder. Lastly, we saw both tall and short climbers on this move, and it was quite nice because the taller climbers couldn't really break it. For instance, Isaac here had to struggle quite a bit with just committing to the move because he wanted to just be tall and keep his feet, but had to go fast and had to explode to it. And as soon as he did that, he also figured out the top very quickly because he's a very delicate and fine-tuned climber. He moves well on the wall. Anyways, the final boulders left. It's the yellow one that I set with the campus style, kind of punishing for the upper body was the idea. So I wanted a campus sequence that just kind of pleases the crowd. It just looks cool to see people swinging from their arms. And then I wanted it to be a slightly more delicate finish with some tricks with the toe hook up there. So the jump move turned out really good. We saw potential breaks. However, the breaks definitely didn't help. It was much easier to jump, at least if I compare it to how it looked to most competitors when they jumped. It seemed to be quite casual to stick the hold because it's quite big. It's just far away. Campus sequence was also relatively easy for most. Albin here made it look like a walk in the park and quickly made it up to the upper section of the boulder. And then with only one more move to go, he could grab the win if he stuck these moves. But it gets quite challenging, and if you don't think of the toe hook, it's incredibly hard to know what to do. Because getting the left foot up on the little crimp that he held before isn't so much an ideal beta. It actually punishes you a lot more than you would think because it's such a tight position above the lip. So your hip movement has to be incredibly good for it to actually make sense. So we switched to something else that was just absolutely bonkers, and He took the win for me with this beta because it was just so absurd to see. It was just actually quite fantastic to see somebody go for such a creative solution to a boulder. But didn't really work, and then he was a bit too fatigued to wrap it up. Mattis, on the other hand, he had a similar go on it. He stuck the jump quite quickly, fell once on it, and then he cruised it all the way up to the top section. But unfortunately, he tried to be very French with the movement there and go up with a high foot. That didn't quite work. It's kind of a typical thing to do toe hooks in Sweden. It's for some reason I've heard it in many countries that Swedes are supposed to be good at toe hooks. I don't really know where it comes from because it's not really something that we talk about here. But apparently we do like toe hooks, and well, I guess this boulder showcased it a little bit better. But yeah, no, he struggled, and in the end he couldn't get the top either. Unfortunately for this boulder, the same thing applied to everyone. Nobody managed to stick the last move, and so the boulder remained unclimbed. Isaac here did manage to, you could argue, break the start by not jumping, but it proved to be quite physical to stick anyways, so I'm not too bummed out about it. You know, like, breaks in competitions are a part of the game, and they can actually be quite entertaining to see as long as they're not complete beta breaks where you skip half the boulder. But unfortunately, just breaking that first move wasn't enough to get the top, and then when he tried to get his left foot, well, he was way too cramped up to make it stick. After that, the juice was done for, and he couldn't repeat the jump anymore. When the competition is done, there's an award ceremony, and it's just such a joyful occasion. Everybody's super psyched, and yeah, it's just awesome to witness. I hope to see some of you out there next time. Again, 11th of February is the next event. I'll be setting for that one as well, and I'm super psyched on this event actually. I think it's one of the best ones in Stockholm. It's just such a good vibe. Everybody's super psyched, and there's a proper competition for all levels. So yeah, just make sure you sign up 11th of February. If you are from Sweden, you can actually take back the title from the French, since Mattis took it from us here, and I expect somebody to come in and deliver. Ciao, people.